Welcome to Actions and Limits. My name is Justin Atherton. I'm the Peak Performance Consultant for Confidence Unchained. With me as always is Paul Fortune. Paul is a mindset coach and the founder of A Call to Action. And together, we make Actions and Limits. Welcome to the show, the podcast where we talk about the actions we can take and the limits we create. Make sure to subscribe here on the YouTube, or if you're listening on any of the podcast platforms, whether it's Apple, iTunes, Spotify, iHeartRadio, whatever your choice is, make sure you subscribe so you don't miss a single episode, and follow us on Facebook or Instagram to make sure that you're staying updated on all our upcoming content. Paul, I'm excited for our guest today. I'm really checking out her bio. Some interesting stuff here. And I know that we're probably going to cover a lot of different aspects, but I'm excited to have Michele Ogston come out.
She's a tremendous coach. I work with her in different groups and I listen to her speak all the time. That's why I wanted to have her on this podcast, because she has some great insight. And I know she put it in the bio, but she talks about we're one decision away from changing our lives. And I firmly believe that. And I know that resonates with you as well.
It's such a powerful thing, right? I wonder how she implements that into her coaching. I definitely want to pick her brain on that, because I think we can all, see how impactful one decision can really be in our lives. And it's just that simple, right? Like, once you make a decision to do something, think about like how that one change that you're creating, can change everything moving forward. I think it's a very interesting aspect to think about, and it's almost too simple to really, pass up, right?
Well, it's extremely powerful, because one decision could change your personal life, your business life, your spiritual life, whatever. So we need to choose wisely.
I like that aspect. I really like that. But it makes you think, right? Like, what decisions do you want to make moving forward? And does it make every decision we make that much more important? If we're like, hey, all of these ripple effects it may have, right? It's like, man, does that make making decisions easier, or does it like put a little bit more weight on these decisions that we make? So I think it's going to be interesting to see how she brings it up in her coaching and how she uses that.
Yeah, I think it's trusting your gut on the decisions you make, your intuition.
I like that. Well, let's go ahead and bring her out. So Michele Ogston is an empowerment and transformational coach. She holds certifications as an intuitive life coach and is certified meditation and mindfulness teacher. She works with her empath and like-minded people to empower them to break the patterns that have been holding them back to create an authentic life filled with purpose and meaning. Her mission is to spread the word that you're just one decision from changing your whole life. She truly believes life isn't about being happy all the time, but about learning how to navigate more challenging times a little easier. Well, everyone, welcome Michele Ogston to the show. Michele, thank you so much for coming on the Actions and Limits podcast. We're really excited to talk with you today.
I'm so excited to be here. I can't wait to talk to you guys. Thank you for the opportunity.
And your bio is pretty impressive. It sounds like you're into several different, aspects of the coaching world. What got you into coaching? Like, how did that start for you, Michele?
Well, in all honesty, it sort of was a natural path that led me to coaching. I did have another business in medical billing and coding, which was completely unfulfilling. And I went through a period of time in my life where I felt very depressed. I mean, we're going to just get right into it. Okay, you guys, let's just dive in.
Do it. Go right in there.
Dive in, right? I mean, let's just do it. So I was very depressed. I was in another marriage, not my current marriage. I was married for 18 years. And I was feeling very unfulfilled, but I was doing everything that I thought I should do. I was working out, I was reading, I was part of the PTA, and sorry, I got a little emotional right there. Sorry.
All good.
Okay.
And I figure out why I was so depressed. I had actually lost somebody very close to me to suicide 15 years prior. And I knew the slippery slope of depression, but I didn't know how to get out of it. And I had a lot of shame and a lot of guilt for not being happy, not being okay with my marriage the way it was, and having healthy children. And we had a house, and there was a lot of shame and guilt wrapped up in that. And one morning I dropped my kids off at school. I worked from home. So I came home, and a lady who was part of our PTA drove up to a very popular spot here in Northern California, and she actually killed herself. And we got this email blast from the school, and we just I sat there for a moment and just really thought, could this be me? Could I get to a point where this would be my next decision? Could I be that depressed? And I knew this could happen since I lost somebody. And it was that moment that really changed my life. I reached out immediately and started working with a therapist and a couple coaches. And it inspired me to really turn that pain into passion and work with other people who feel this, like they might be one decision away from changing their whole life, positive or in the other direction. That's what it's about. I mean, we are just one decision away all the time from really taking other actions in our lives and changing them forever. And that's how I became a coach.
Talk to me about your growing up. You know, was it a happy family growing up? Was it you had to be happy, or there was something wrong with you at that point in time, or how was that like?
My childhood. My childhood was interesting. I was raised both Catholic and Jewish, so I had a very religious upbringing, but I never felt called to religion. So when I was 16, I actually was fortunate enough that I had a mother who was very into exploring, and I started to explore spirituality, and I started training to incorporate spirituality and intuitive practices into my life from age 16 to 24. I trained with the Inner Light Foundation here in Northern California. So that was like the spiritual part of my upbringing. I did have a kind of tumultuous childhood. I had abuse, both from my mother's boyfriends. I was also babysitting, and I was like, what would be the right word? Sort of trapped with an abuser for a time period. So I did have some like trauma in my childhood. I had done therapy before that, but I think that there was, for me, being an empath just kind of like intertwined its way, and for meditation, mindfulness, all of this really helped me heal and move forward. So for me, my childhood really taught me a lot about being able to persevere through things that people feel like you cannot persevere through, and just not being labeled as a victim or having that like martyrdom in my life. I never wanted to be classified as all of the labels, and I will use them to let people know that I can identify with them. I'll say I'm a Me Too survivor. I will say I have PTSD, but I don't like those labels to define me. I feel like we are so much more than the labels that we give ourselves, and that there's so many more things that you can do. It's definitely a way to connect with people, I feel like.
Sure. Now, how does that affect your coaching? You've gone through different traumas in your life. Like how does that make you able to connect with your clients more?
I think it brings a level of empathy, and not that if you have not been through that, you do not feel empathy. I think we can all feel empathy. I just think that, no two stories are the same. So even my situation is going to be different than someone else's trauma situation. It gives me an idea of what that actually feels like, since I have been through a lot of those things. it enables me to understand what the recovery process is like in a way that if you haven't been through trauma, there's some of the things that limit you or hold you back for a while, and you have to really work through those things.
Sure.
And I think I'm hoping it gives people an ability to really see that you don't have to be defined by that trauma, that it's a part of your story, but it's not your whole story. And, one mistake or one something in life doesn't define who you are. There's so many more things that you can do and grow from this. And I'm such a huge supporter of mental health, especially for men and women, but definitely men, which is why I love seeing both of you two as coaches and working with men, because we don't talk about it enough. And we're definitely raised to not talk about our emotions, especially for men, I think.
Sure. Yeah, that's definitely a factor. But I think Paul and I have both seen this, that it's a theme that the best coaches out there have gone through that type of trauma and know how to recover from that and help other people like get to that point of recovery and going like, hey, like you said, this doesn't define you. This is something you experienced. Don't let it define you in your life.
Absolutely. And I think this applies to people too who are on the other side of it. So if you're not the person who is, quote, the victim, but if you're somebody who has inflicted pain in your life, if you're somebody who has cheated, if you're somebody who has, done something that you're not proud of, it also helps you go, I don't have to be defined by that. I'm not going to be labeled as a cheater. I'm not going to be labeled as this. I'm going to learn where I need to heal and move forward so I can make better decisions in my life. I think that's also
That's an interesting perspective.
Thank you.
Like that.
What's your perspective on that? I guess it is an interesting perspective. I mean, do you think people can heal from that? And like, are you always a cheater? I don't know.
It's a tough thing to think about, right? Like people, it is very difficult for people to change. You have to make some type of conscious decision to be able to do that. So it is a tough thing to think about, but I don't think that people really think about the other side of it. Like you brought up, people that are the ones that are committing the harm and, that have hurt other people. Like they're not defined by that either. And it is an interesting conversation to have from that perspective. But
when I think in society, we like to label people and we like to say, oh, well, they're bad or they're good. And I don't know that that's actually true. I think we're all of source, whatever source you believe in, whether that's God or Allah, Buddha, the universe. We're all of source. And I don't think we're created with evil intent. I think that a lot of us have had trauma and sometimes haven't had therapy or had the tools to work through, and then we carry them and we think we know what we're using them for, and sometimes we really just don't. And you're right, people don't change who don't want to change. So at some point it's not about what your parents did or what happened in your childhood. You have to take responsibility and go, how am I going to be a better person in spite of these things?
Talk to me about, I think you said that you're a medium. Did I say that right? Medium? Is that psychic?
A medium. Yeah.
How'd that come into play?
So that was, I really learned when I think I told you guys, was studying intuitive practices. I did know from a very early age that there was definitely something interesting about me. I felt spirits around me all the time. I did not connect in the religious world, even though I was brought up very religiously. And it wasn't until I really started learning how to tap into different energies. What did that mean? Where did I have a connection in when you tap in? That's like kind of a terminology of like tapping into feelings or spirits or energy around you. That I learned that I did have this big connection to love and death. And so I started really working with how to channel that and how to work with doing readings and connecting with people on the other side and how that could benefit somebody.
But you can't just do that, right? You have to have some sort of powers, right? I don't think like if people don't have those powers, I guess they could work at reading cards, but can they really get good at that if they don't really have the powers?
Well, everybody is born knowing it. Like we're all psychic. And so it's really just working. It's like anything. It's like any sport, right? You played baseball, so this is a great analogy. Did you play sports, Justin?
Yes, ma'am. Yes.
Okay. Okay, so great. I'm in the right company. So it's like it's practicing anything. I just had to really practice on what that feels like and tapping in and what it doesn't feel like. Did you play baseball too, Justin?
No, I played football.
Okay. So it's a ball thing.
Sure.
I did not play sports, so I can't relate on any level, but my husband did. And so I try to use sports analogies when I can.
Sure.
But it's like practicing anything. I really had to learn, like, what did it feel like to throw out energy and then get it back? What does it feel like when it's a negative energy? So everything in life has a positive and equal and opposite reaction. So what does a negative energy feel like? What are people trying to say? What are trying to learn? What's the difference between a thought and a feeling? How do you get your ego out of it? So it took training. I couldn't just go, oh, I'm psychic one day.
Mhm.
I had to really work at learning and developing my skills.
Okay, that's interesting to me. And Paul and I were talking about this a little bit beforehand, because a friend of mine that came on the show before, her name is Lisa Gornell, and she's talked about this on the show, and we've had some conversations about it. But for me, I've had it show up a couple times, in my law enforcement career, and it's hard to pinpoint. It's like there's a weird vibe coming from a car, and I'm like, something bad is going on in that car, or I need to go talk with them. I don't know why. And so it ends up most of the time that your intuition is right, but it's hard to train people up on that. I've talked to rookie officers about that, and I'm like, hey, when you get that feeling, don't ignore it, because we get those type of odd feelings about a person, about a situation. So it's, some of it seems like it might be pattern recognition, but there's also seems like there's something else behind it that's going on there as well.
Well, and it's beautiful that you're teaching people to do that. And I really do think that more people who tapped in would have moments like that, especially people who like that are in positions of power and where you can actually use it to your benefit, where you're, like you said, you're usually not wrong, but we're not taught to trust ourselves in those feelings. And there is a stigma in society of being part of the, like, if I had to label it, the woo-woo clan, right? Like,
Right.
oh, there's like, are we all sitting around with crystals and, chanting? And we're not like that. Most of us are not like that. But there is this stigma that has been created that maybe that's, if you were feeling that, then maybe you're like that. And people don't want to be identified like that. So they don't really allow themselves to tap in. But you're not the only law enforcement person that has told me this. My grandfather was a cop too, and he would tell me that sometimes too, that sometimes it was just a feeling that you would have no tangible evidence, which is how you're trained, is to have tangible, credible evidence before you make a move. And then if you don't make a move. But he would really feel sometimes like, there's something going on in that house, or there's something going on over here in this shop. Maybe we need to go over there. This person's not telling me the whole truth. So I agree with you. I think that it is something you have to really develop. And the more you work at it, the better it comes. So much of it is really confidence. You have to be very confident in what you're feeling.
Do you use these talents in your coaching business?
Only with permission. So I used to do psychic readings and medium for actual pay. And for me, there was just something that didn't feel right about it. It just didn't resonate well. I just felt like, I don't know, it just felt icky, for lack of better expression, to take people's money for it. This is completely just for me. I do not judge anyone else who does it. Just for me, it did not resonate. So in my coaching, if I get a feeling about something or someone, I will say, I'm picking up on a feeling. Would you like me to explore that for you? If they say no, then I don't go any further. I let the feeling go and I turn it off. I'm very good at turning on and turning off. If they say yes, then I'll kind of like crank it up and like really tune into it and go from that. And if they give me the permission, then sometimes if I get feelings when I'm not with them, I'll send them an email or a text saying, hey, I just got a feeling about this. Something going on.
When you crank it up, do your clients get a better result from working with you?
Not necessarily, because I think, as you guys know, coaching is all about, I can lead them there. They have to do the work. So, I don't know that they get any better. I think some people like the recognition of being able to pick up on other things that aren't tangible. Other people, it doesn't come into play at all. Like I said, you guys know, when you're a coach, there's only so much we can do. There's only so many things we can say and sort of enlighten. And then so much is really up to really what they want to do and how they want to navigate.
So tell us about your coaching program, because I know you talk a lot about empathy and using that. And I really like what you talked about. I know it's in your bio, but you touched on it a little bit too, of this aspect that we're one decision from changing our whole life. So how
Mhm.
do you really focus on that with your clients as a mantra, or how does that play in?
Yeah, it is really my platform, because I feel that on such a deep level. I think because I've been there, I've been one decision away. I've seen people, I've lost people to one decision. So for me, it's like there's this one decision. I mentioned the person that I lost, and it's actually been 20 years ago this year, or last year was 20 years. And that one decision he made completely changed not only his life, but changed all of our lives. And
Mhm.
the ripple effect those one decisions have in our lives, where, me deciding to get divorced, that whole ripple effect, the positive and the things that were harder. I mean, we're all one decision really away from changing our lives. And I think as coaches, we see this a lot, that you see people make those one decisions that sometimes it's just a little tiny tweak of just mindset or
Mhm.
confidence. Or Paul, I know I've listened to his story a couple of times about just really saying, I'm not going to do this. I'm going to go, be a baseball star. I'm going to, who's going to tell me I can't do this? Like, just that mindset shift, just that little moment really changes your whole life. And sometimes I think we think on such grand, big levels that it's going to take all these decisions, and I'm going to have training, and I'm going to have to do all these things. And really, it's just sometimes that simple as recognizing that, I got to make a different decision right here. That's it. And then the whole thing kind of falls into place. I mean, I don't know. What do you guys think? You guys are coaches. What do you think?
Well, yeah, for me, it all starts with the mindset. If we do not have a strong mindset, it's going to be a long road. If we do not love ourselves first before we start to take action, it's going to be tough. Because when I'm happy, I'm more productive. When I'm angry and sad, I'm not very productive at all. So the first thing that we need to work on is ourselves and being satisfied of who we are right this moment. And once we start to feel that, truly feel that, then we can start taking action to our goals.
Right. I always say, like, self-love and self-trust, it's just like the glue that holds it all together. Like, we can talk about all the things that we want to do and goals, and we can write them down. But if we don't really like love ourselves and really believe in ourselves, it's not really held together very well. Like, we really need that glue, the little self-love
Yeah,
glue. Hold
that's
every.
self-care. The proverb talks about you have to fill up your cup first before you can fill up anyone else's, right? Like, take care of
Mhm.
yourself so you can take care of other people, and come at every interaction that you have, at 100%. Because if you're giving everyone else your 50%, no one's really benefiting from that, and you're not benefiting from it either. So I think a lot of people really, they put self-care on the back burner. And so
Mhm.
I like this idea of being one decision away from changing your whole life, because that's all it is. It's one decision at a time, right? It's like,
Yeah.
I'm going to decide to work out today. Great. So tomorrow that could lead to doing it again, or deciding to, improve your relationship with your spouse, your kids. Those single decisions that we make, you know, have a huge impact on our lives. So I like that you put that out there, because I don't think people look at how impactful some of those decisions that we make really can be.
You're so right. And it's the truth too for the opposite, really. Sometimes if we haven't made great decisions,
Mm.
if you're an addict, or if you did some things you weren't proud of, sometimes you get stuck in, well, I'm never going to do anything right, or look at me, I mess up everything. And really, it's just one that's all you're asking, is one thing. What's one thing that you would make differently? And then, like you said, it kind of has that ripple effect. You
Mm.
get that confidence that, hey, I did one thing that I'm really proud of. So I worked out 4 days in a row and I eat chocolate cake today. Okay, tomorrow I'm not going to eat the chocolate cake, right? Like, sometimes we let those little tiny moments where we gave into a different decision or a different feeling, and we took a different action, then we let that like crumble the whole plan. And really, it's just a little segue. We could just, make another one decision. We're always just one decision, just little, like you said, little tiny one decision.
I like that.
Michelle, we had a great conversation the other week, and one of the things that stood out in my mind that you said that I want you to talk about here on the podcast is manifesting.
Okay. Love manifesting. I am like, I'm such a huge supporter of manifesting. Do you guys manifest?
Paul and I talked about it a little bit beforehand, maybe wording it different for how we coach, but we want to hear you talk about how you manifest and how that shows up for you, Michelle.
All right. So I am a huge manifester. I completely believe in the power of intention, which is all about really aligning yourself with what you truly desire. What is that? And not from the ego's perspective, but from what your soul really, really wants. What is your soul aching for? What is that moment? And everything that you do just aligns with that. So the power of manifestation is really about designing the goal and working backwards. So for me, let's see, what's one of my big ones? I manifested being a coach. So I'm here today because of manifestation. I didn't know that I wanted to be the kind of coach that I am. I just wanted to be a coach. That was all I knew. And really what I did is I just let the universe really guide me. So the wonderful thing about manifestation is it lets you let go, stop worrying about the why or the how. And you just, every decision you make just aligns with what your goal is. If it doesn't align, then you get to let it go. It's so easy. It's just so easy. To me, that's what I love about it, is it just takes the guessing work out of life and just going inward and really like asking the universe, like, what is it that I'm supposed to be doing? What is this? And like letting that come up is beautiful. That's kind of like the woo-woo way of doing it. But you can also use it very tangibly. Like, for example, I want to have a house in Hawaii one day. Okay, so this is one of my big dreams. So for those of you who are big dreamers, I would love to have a house in Hawaii. I love the ocean. It's like my Zen place. And so every decision that I make aligns with getting me closer to that. So whether that's how I structure my coaching business, or the hours that I choose, or the types of things that I do, or the classes that I enroll in, if it does not align with where I'm going, then I don't do it. It's just very, very easy.
I think it's interesting. So, Paul, how did you word it to me when we were talking about it beforehand? Like putting it in a more like, logical, just broken down way for us. So like the manning it down, right? What was your version, Paul?
I use the term ask as if. So like act as if. So like you want to be a coach, you're already a coach. You want $1 million, you already have $1 million. Use it as past tense. It's already happened. I think that would resonate more with you. That's how I would break it down for somebody like you.
Yeah, and Paul and I were talking about this. I use that. I don't use the term manifesting, but it's like you need to act as if it's already happening, as if it's already occurring. So whatever that goal is, it's like, this is just a formality, this step here that I'm going through because it's already happened. And I'm everything I'm doing is aligning with that. So I love that idea, but I think, Michelle, that, like you said, with the woo-woo, people are like, oh, manifesting, no, that doesn't work. But it kind of aligns with like the idea of like vision boards and like, even with goal setting, right? It's like, this is already happening. This is what I want it to happen. Reverse engineering those goals. I really like that idea. But yeah, that was a discussion Paul and I were having beforehand about like how it would come out in maybe my coaching, because I don't think I would use the term manifesting, but I like that idea of acting as if it's already occurred.
Yes, and everything that you do, like every saying, every time you write it, it's as if it's happened. So like for people who journal, or for people who are writing goals, you act as if it's happened. So we'll use me as the example. I have a house in Hawaii. So I'm already acting as if, and if I had a house in Hawaii, then I would do these things. And so when you do those things, so if it's a new job or it's something different, you act as if you've already obtained it. There's this great book by Dr. Joe Dispenza. It's called Breaking the Habits of Being Yourself. And it's all about manifestation and the power of intuition, and that for people who need a scientific reason of what is happening when you're manifesting. It's a great book. It's very scientific-y though. So I'm warning anybody, if you are not into the science behind things, it would completely bore you. But it's fascinating because it talks about how your thoughts create atoms and starts to build just based on your thoughts. And then you start talking about it, and then that breeds more energy to it. So it's all about the science of atoms and energy and creating these moments based on your thoughts and your energy.
Yeah, Dr. Joe, he's his content, like you have to rewatch it. Like when he starts talking about, because he talks about all these different quantum theories and how the energy that's created by your thoughts and what you're putting out into the universe that goes out and brings it back to you. So it's definitely, like you said, a lot of science behind it, a lot of things that you have to kind of, re-listen to a few times, but his stuff is very interesting as well. So I'm glad that you mentioned him, but a lot of great stuff in there. What would you say is your main focus right now? Because I know that you're a writer for Brains Magazine. You got your one-on-one coaching, your empath support group. Where do you think is your biggest focus right now, or what are some things coming up for Michele?
So my big focus right now is I have a weekly life coaching group. This is called the Souls Assignment Club, and this is for people who are feeling a higher calling to do more with their lives. We work a lot on life purpose and manifestation and anything really that has to do with something bigger than yourself. So we have special guests come and talk, and then we do lots of coaching work, and then we have sort of this open forum where people kind of come in and talk about what's going on for them. So that's my big thing right now in my one-on-one program. So a lot of people in my one-on-one are also in the Souls Assignment Club, because this is a lot of what we work on. I work a lot with people on relationships too, and empaths and relationships are very intertwined. So I was a relationship coach before I was an empath coach, and so this just seems to be what I attract, is people with relationship issues or things going on and how to better themselves and their partners in life.
Sure. Well, that's awesome.
And it's not matchmaking. They're already in a relationship.
It's not matchmaking, although I can help you with dating. So I am definitely have a few clients that are in the dating realm during COVID, and it's such a different realm of dating during COVID.
That's funny. What's the best way for our viewers to get a hold of you, to reach out to you?
The best way to get a hold of me would be just really through email, which is Michele with one L. So it's Michele at cloud9, the number 9, lifecoaching.com. You can also join the empath support group on Facebook. That's a great place if you're just really shy or not sure where to start, or maybe the word empath is completely overwhelming. To just come into the Facebook group and check it out and see what people are talking about and see if this resonates with you or not.
Awesome.
I'm already a member and I love it.
I'm gonna have to check it out as well. But yeah, Michele, we'll definitely put down all of your contact information down in the show notes so everybody can check you out and get a hold of you. We like to wrap up the show with asking our guests this question with the title of our podcast in mind, Actions and Limits. What would you say is one action that people can take right now that can make a huge difference in their lives?
Okay, one action is really just to take a moment in silence. There's so much talk about what happens in silence. And so that can even be in the shower. It can be on a walk. It doesn't have to be, again, with crystals and candles. It can be anywhere in time where you just take one moment in silence and just really ask yourself, what's the one thing I could change in my life that would change everything? We talked a lot today about that ripple effect. So if you could change one thing in your life, what would that be? In a moment of silence, and see just what comes up for you. Take note of that, because that's the universe trying to tell you something.
I like that. I like that idea of silence, because a lot of us are uncomfortable in that silence, even with ourselves. So just allowing ourselves to take that moment and go, okay, what's going on in here? What do I need to change? I like that idea. The other side of that are these self-imposed limits that we put on ourselves. And I'm sure you've seen that in your coaching business. What have you seen that's the most prevalent limit that people put on themselves that we need to remove right away?
Is the labels other people give you. So if someone thinks you're a freak, if someone thinks you're a psycho, someone thinks you're not good enough, someone thinks you're lazy. I mean, it can be from your parents, it can be from your friends. It's just the other labels that people give you that they're just not self-serving. to really learn how to let go of those and really hear your own voice instead of someone else's.
I'm going to follow a question to that. So what is a good way for people to let go of those limits that they're hearing from other people, these labels?
Okay, so I'm in the woo-woo clan, so I'm going to tell you meditation because it is, there's a big meditation out there about letting go. How do you let go of somebody else's thoughts, or what thoughts are yours? So a lot of times we don't even really know what our own emotions are. And so for me, it would really be either two, meditation or journaling. You can do either one. But it's either writing down everything that you think of, like when you really think about the things or the things or the feelings that you have around what people say to you. So you either write them all down, and you just write them all down as fast as you can. You write them down and then you burn it. You literally burn it, you throw it away, you tear it up. If you're doing a meditation, you do something more where like you think about all of the thoughts or the things or the labels that people give you. And then you can do a few different things, but for today, we'll just talk about this, where you put them on little leaves and then you let them sort of blow off. You let them travel off into like a little breeze, send them off to the universe with love. Because we work from a place of gratitude and love, it comes back to you. And this is just one visualization or a tangible like writing technique that you can do to like, one, become aware. Sometimes we don't even really know what we hear that other people say, and to be aware that you're saying that you're lazy, or you're saying that you're unproductive, or that you're a failure, or that you're stupid, or you're fat. Like, there's a lot of things that we hear that other people say to us that really we don't believe, but we've chosen to believe just because we've heard it so many times. I hear women say this a lot too. And men, I'm not going to just say women, like their appearance, that I'm fat. That's a big one and a lot of times they really don't think that, but they've taken it on as if they are that, and they're not. And to really let that go, that is not yours, that is someone else's.
I like that, Michelle. A lot of great things to think about. So glad you could come on the show and share all of this with us. I really like your idea of one decision away from changing your whole life. So, Michelle, thank you so much for coming on the Actions Limits podcast.
Thank you, both of you. Thank you, Paul. Thank you, Justin. It's been an absolute pleasure. I hope everybody got something out of it. Even if you're not in the woo-woo clan, I hope you got something out of it.
Wow, Michelle was a great guest, Paul. I'm glad that she came on. Man, what was your biggest takeaway?
Manifesting. We talked about it off air, but I think that is something that we all should do. You can put it in any terms you want to do, act as if, whatever, but train your mind. If you want something, train your mind to think that it's already happened, and great things will happen.
I really like that idea. And I look back to all the times that I put that into place, not with the woo-woo sense, right? But it's like already acting as if it's going to happen. So I really like that idea of manifesting. But my favorite was that you're one decision away from changing your life, because that's so powerful, because we can look back at, certain decisions that we've all made in our lives that have really changed, where we are. So I think that's a very true statement. And if you look at, moving forward, how impactful one decision really can be, man, you could really impact, your life moving forward quite a bit. So
I totally agree with that. In any aspect of your life, one decision will change it.
Yeah, no, I love that. So I'm glad that Michelle could come on and be part of the show. So we'll go ahead and wrap up the show with another segment of Ask Paul Anything. Everyone, make sure to continue to send your questions into actionsandlimits@gmail.com to get your question featured on the show. I found a humorous question, Paul. I know you love it when I ask you funny questions, but here's one from Elisa in Nebraska. And she says, Paul, if animals could talk, which would be the rudest?
Oh, got to be the hyena.
Okay.
they're laughing at you. They're already laughing at you. I know they're thinking something, but they're already laughing at you. And they got this look on their face. They're up to mischievousness. So it's the hyena.
I like that. They're already laughing. So they're already talking crap. So that's not a far stretch, but no, I like that one. The hyena, the most rude animal in the animal kingdom. I like that. Well, thank you guys for sending in your questions. Continue to do so. Man, another great episode, Paul. I'm glad Michelle could join us on the show.
For Justin Atherton, this is Paul Fortune. We'll see you next week.
All right. See you next Monday. Thank you for listening to the show. Don't miss an episode. Click and subscribe to our YouTube channel. Follow us on your favorite podcast platform and find us on Instagram and Facebook under Actions and Limits to stay updated on all our upcoming content. Continue to email the show at actionsandlimits@gmail.com for our segment Ask Paul Anything. Thank you for listening. We'll see you next week.